everybody. This is Liz coming to you on another weekend with someone who had reached out a few weeks ago and graciously said they would be willing to come on and share. And you're going to be very blessed to hear his story and very encouraged from the things he's been through and come to today. So first of all, tell us your name and where you're from and a little bit about yourself.
So my name is Jason Murphy. We're located in the Louisville, Kentucky market. I actually live in southern Indiana, right across the river, but our territory is in Middleton, Kentucky. A little bit about myself. I spent 17 years in corporate America, was let go on a whim. I think I was around 38 to 40. I don't remember the details. Had no clue what to do at that point. So we started a lawn care business. And here we are 9 years later. And so far, so good.
Incredible. Did they tell you why they were letting you go? Was it other people too?
There was a whole lot of redistricting that took off that kind of went right through, and they laid off a lot of people. But it was the only place that I had worked for the most part, straight out of high school through college. So I had no job references. I had nothing other than there. So
it was completely unexpected. And did you have family?
Yeah, that is one thing I'm very blessed with. We have a great support system here. Both my family and my wife's family are local. So we had people to lean on if we needed to. They've always been there for us. At the time, my wife wasn't working, so she went back to work and we figured it out. There was lots of sleepless nights in the beginning and then it really evened out. But it's been good to us. I'm very happy with where we ended up.
Yes. So what was it like that day? Like you were there, what, 20 years, more than that?
17 years, I think is how long I was there.
Yeah. 17 years. So you hear that, you come home that day, and what was it like for your family?
So my kids were both young. I think my oldest was probably 6 or 8 at the time. And then my youngest was probably 4 or 5. So they didn't know anything about it. Tara, my wife, had not worked up until that point. She'd done some part-time stuff here and there, but for the most part didn't work. So I just called her on the way home. I'm like, hey, what's going on? She's like, nothing. I was like, well, I have the rest of the day free, in the week, in the month. So she was like, what are you talking about? And again, you panic for a few moments. I've always had a firm belief that I can make it through just about anything. So we went home and, we just kind of chilled for a couple of days. I ended up taking a 6-week hiatus. I didn't do anything for 6 weeks, which is fantastic. And then I floated around in retail for about 6 months, different jobs with different companies, and just realized I wasn't happy. My mother owns a lawn care company here locally too. So I worked for her for about a year, I guess. And she was in a different spot in life. She was, kind of ready to retire, and I was ready to take off. So with her blessing, I started my own.
Incredible. So growing up, did you have siblings? Were your parents together? What kind of childhood did you have?
So I think I had a good childhood. I don't know. My parents divorced when I was young, probably 4 or 5 years old. I have an older brother, a younger sister. We all pretty much get along. So, I think we had a normal American childhood life. I don't know. It was normal to be, right? I always knew my parents loved me. I think that's the most important thing. If you have kids, that's the single most important thing you can do for them. Just know that you're going to love them no matter what they do. And I always get that home. So that was always good.
How did your mom get into lawn care business? Did she try a bunch of things after she was divorced, or how did that come to be?
So she's loved my mother to death and what she's built. She is one of the hardest workers, if not the hardest worker I know. So she started in 1984 with a Chevy Chevette hatchback. Load the lawnmower into it and go cut grass. It's single mom just trying to make extra cash, right?
Wow.
Started out, I think she was cutting the 2 neighbors on the side, and then that just grew and grew and grew. And she runs a 7-figure business now, so she does well too.
So how did the customers feel having a woman? Did they actually feel better taken care of? How was the feedback that she got?
We've never talked about that. I would assume it was good. She's continued to grow year after year. The good thing about mom is she's very old school. Up until about 2 years ago, everything was, handwritten.
Oh my word.
There was no CRM. It was just spreadsheets and paper. But she kind of joined the technology age a few years ago. And now it's a lot better, but she's still got that one-on-one touch. Like, you know,
Yes.
they've got 100 customers or whatever it is. They all have her cell phone number. They can all call her. I don't know how she does it. There's no way I could do that, but she still has that personal touch.
Does she have employees, teams, trucks? Does she do landscaping as well as mowing?
She does. They do all of it: landscaping, lawn care, snow removal, all that stuff. I don't know how many. They've probably got 12 to 15 employees all told.
So you worked with her for a little bit doing what? Field work or office managing?
Nope. I was on a mower. Funny story. I had no idea how to drive a zero turn. I'm still not good at it. So when she brought me up to her house, she's like, we can train for a little bit. You can use my yard as, you know, the guinea pig. So I sat on the mower, you know, I grabbed the bars and I was like, where are the foot pedals? Where's the gas? And she busted out laughing.
I'm sure.
So she showed me how to do that. I, within time, figured it out, but I'm still, by no means am I the best technician.
So you didn't pop wheelies and land in a bush like some of the guys I know?
No, not, well, at least not that day. I have turned a mower over. I have gone backwards on a mower. It's not fun. I don't recommend it to anybody.
So why did you and her decide to split up? Did you need the technology side and just have a different kind of brain for business than her?
I think that's part of it, but part of it, like, I wanted to grow as fast as I could. Like, I wanted to go from like 100,000 to 1 million in a year. And it just wasn't for her. She didn't want to take on that kind of stress. So I think it was like the week of Thanksgiving when I sat down with her and I was like, hey, I'm going to start my own gig. She was somewhat happy with that. I mean, eventually she gave me her blessing. So we moved on. So she runs her company locally. My brother works for her. I think he actually owns it now at this point. I think he bought it from her. So that's where we are. We're both in the same market.
No way. So how do you deal with each other's leads? Whoever gets them gets them?
Yeah, I mean, we run two completely separate different companies. I'm sure we compete against each other at some point in there, but like I have no clue where their customers are or anything like that. And I'm sure vice versa for them.
Wow. And there's no ill will there?
No, I don't give away any of my secrets. I will say that I keep those pretty close to the chest, but other than that, yeah.
So in the beginning of your lawn care business, was there anything online you covered? Did you find a CRM that you could use?
I did. I used Service Autopilot for about the first 8 years. I watched a lot of Jonathan Potocnik's videos early on. I joined his academy when he still had that going on. So I've done a lot of coaching. I've done a lot of mentoring. I was in academy for, I don't know, 3 or 4 years. Paid a lot of money to be in it. Learned a lot of stuff and never implemented it. It was just in my brain floating around. And then I don't know where the breaking point was. Jonathan's academy shut down. I joined another group called Conquer, and it was mainly for guys in the exterior cleaning space. I ended up with a phenomenal coach. His name's Nick DeMark. I still coach with him today, and he absolutely changed everything for me in my life, the company, everything.
Nice.
So I took all of that stuff that I'd learned both from Jonathan and then from Nick, and then we started implementing it, and that's when we saw things really start to scale.
And what was his primary focus? Was it marketing? Was it actual running teams of people, systems, organization?
It was mainly financials and knowing your numbers. And I think that's obviously a big part of the business that a lot of guys never get straight. But we met once a week and we would go over a budget from the week before of what we did and how we did it. Everything was data driven. And once you get past the emotional part of a business and realize that it's all just numbers, then you can start changing things and pull levers to make things move.
And when you were in Service Autopilot, did you go to their events or did they even have that yet? They must have been pretty young at that point.
I went to, I think it was SA 4, 5, and 6 I went to. I have no idea what years those were, but they're always great. Anytime you can get to the conventions, the magic isn't in the convention itself. It's in the networking and the people that you talk to afterwards.
Yeah.
Those have all, I go to several conventions a year outside of lawn care, outside of, all kinds of different industries. And there's always something to learn from them.
So before you saw Mike started in that, where were you growth wise, your team, that sort of thing?
Where were we when I joined Augusta?
No, when you first started hearing of Mike and kind of listening to him, I've been watching Mike's material for
I mean, at least 5 or 6 years now. I mean, early on, I don't even know how long Mike's been on now, but I mean, I was always watching stuff. He's always had good stuff. He kind of took off where Jonathan stopped.
Yes.
In like Jonathan was gone, and then Mike kind of filled that vacuum. And they're both kind of preaching the same stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So I started to listen to more and more of Mike's stuff, and then just went from there. I think when I first started listening to Mike, we were probably in the $300,000 to $500,000 range in revenue, and it's grown since then.
Yeah. Did you implement certain things that Mike was talking about? Just random things he taught?
We did. We implemented P4P, which was great. There is a hurdle getting the guys over that at first because they struggle to understand it.
Right.
The biggest thing that we struggled with here was because the way our routes work, the guys may make $32 an hour on a Monday and Tuesday because we've got really, really condensed routes on those 2 days. But then on Wednesday, they might make $19 an hour.
Yeah.
On the week, they're still averaging $26, $27 an hour on the week, but they would get
amazing.
I only made $17 today an hour. And I'm like, yes, but you made 36 on Monday. It averages out. There were definitely some pain points in it, but once you get it rolling and you get the right people, you get people who aren't trying to milk a clock and they're trying to make a living. It's definitely a game changer.
Mm-hmm. For those listening, did you actually do a test period where they couldn't go below a certain amount? Like they had their base wage that they've always had, their hourly wage, and then a test period? Or did you just say, this is what we're doing, even though they didn't understand? And I'm sure they were probably upset, but how did that roll?
So we tested it basically in the background for about 6 months. We were tracking it. We didn't tell them we were tracking anything. That way we had a really good baseline of what we expected them to get done in a day. And then once we kind of had that data, then we could extrapolate that out and go, okay, this is what we're going to do going forward. And it's been pretty good.
So you've had it dialed in for quite a while with budgeted hours, what your crew can handle, figuring out, we'll just plan on 1 or 2 guys being out every day.
Yeah, I don't like the term dialed in because I'm always learning.
Yes.
It seems there's always something coming up. But I mean, we've got some good systems. We've got some good employees. And with those two, you can make a lot of magic happen.
Yeah, for sure. So how many years were you in business before you came to Augusta?
8. And this is our 9th season. And I joined like November of last year. So this will be my first season. Yeah.
And where were you revenue wise when you started with Augusta?
We did 1.2 million last year. And then this year we'll push 2 million.
Okay. And what was your team like? Trucks, team, equipment?
So during the mowing season, we usually have somewhere between 10 and 12 guys. I think we've got like 8 trucks. We don't use all of them every day. And then we do most of our income comes in the last quarter. We do a lot of Christmas lights. So during Christmas light season, we'll bump up to 20 or so employees.
Mm-hmm. How long have you been doing Christmas lights?
This will be our 5th year.
And did your team and you do a lot of classes and some training to be able to take that on? Because there's a lot to that.
There is. We trained with a gentleman up in Cincinnati who was doing Christmas lights himself. He convinced me to come up there for a day. I think we went the week before Thanksgiving. So that would have been 5 years ago. Had no clue what we were doing, had no idea what to expect. So we went and did the first house. It was just your typical, upper middle income house. And I think we did a roof line and a wreath and some bushes. And we were there for 2 hours. And he was like, how much do you think we charge for this? And I had no clue. I mean, none. And I was like, I don't know, based on the amount of time we were here, $300 or $400. And he said $1,800.
Wow.
Yeah. And I mean, like, I couldn't believe it. I was like, you're lying to me. And he was like, no, man, this is the 3rd year she's been with us. So I was like, okay. So we finished training for the day. I immediately called my marketing company and said, please start running ads for Christmas lights. And it took off from there. So this year we should do somewhere between 600,000 and 700,000 for Christmas lights. Wow.
And are these recurring customers? And do you take the lights down and take them away with you?
We do. So we're full service. We put everything up. If anything goes wrong with them throughout the season, we'll come fix them. And at the end of the year, we take them down. And in terms of recurring, we have about an 80% return rate. So if we have 400 customers this year, I know I'm going to have 80% of that next year.
How do you measure? How do you measure? And do you just do roof lines, or do you do trees, walkways?
We do all of it. We do trees, walkways, we do wreaths, garland, anything that you can think of, we'll figure out a way to do it. The measuring is not scientific by any stretch of the imagination. It's just like lawns. I mean, so we have lawns built out by the square foot and all that stuff. But typically, if you've been in the industry for a while, you can show up to a house and go, okay, this is what it's going to cost us. And we kind of do Christmas lights the same way. At this point, I've done thousands of estimates.
Yeah.
We do everything in-house. We do not go to your house to do a Christmas light estimate. It's all done.
Interesting.
Yeah, we do pictures off of Google. We'll do a markup on a software that we use to say, hey, this is kind of what it's going to look like. And then we send it off to them. I think last year, I maybe talked to 5 people on the phone for Christmas lights.
That's phenomenal.
Yeah, it's a crazy business.
Do you do it the way we do in lawn care, where it's time, materials, and maybe an e-fee?
Similar. We basically do it by footage. So you're going to do lineal foot for like your roof lines and whatnot. Then there's a certain price for depending on what size wreath you want, that'll be set. And then on the mini lights on like trees and bushes and all that stuff, we do it by the strand.
Where we live, we're in Washington State, and where the reservation was for us to do it is a lot of the houses are 2-story. Some of them have shingle roofs, and they get very slimy and mossy here. And so we didn't think that was safe for the guys. We'd have to only do, single level, which there aren't a ton here. How did you convince your crew and tell them they'd be safe and even get them willing to do this? And what are the houses like there?
So we have a lot. The homes that we do are huge. I mean, we do $1 million homes on a regular basis. So they're very large. They have very high peaks. In terms of convincing my team to do it, it was just like, hey, we're doing Christmas lights. Mm-hmm. So when we initially got into Christmas lights, I think we had like 5 full-time employees at the time. And my goal was just to extend their season because by Thanksgiving here, we're done. There's nothing to do. Yeah. So they had work we would have to lay them off. So we got into Christmas lights, and honestly, my hope was just get those 5 guys another 4 weeks worth of work. And that first year, it was 4 weeks worth of work. And I think we did like 10 houses. It was terrible. We were very inefficient. But luckily, I've got good employees that know we're trying to build something as a team. Mm-hmm. So they're very willing to do what I needed them to do. And then we've just grown it every year.
So you had been watching Mike's content for a while. So you saw when he started talking about a franchise and then started them. Did you ever come to Landscape Business Course? To the Landscape Summit?
I did. I came. Well, the first one I went to was last year in Louisville. I was hoping you all would like Louisville a whole bunch and it would never leave because it's 10 minutes from my house. But it was great. That was the first time I'd been to Mike's. Again, I've been to conferences all over the country in different industries and everything. But his was good. I absolutely loved it. That was kind of the final straw for me to join Augusta.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask next. Did you really need to come there, see the team, see Mike, was it really to see if it was legit, like him as a person from what you were seeing online?
I don't know if it was that much. Honestly, I think the one thing that tipped me to joining Augusta, because I've been looking at it for like 3 years. I had an initial call with Lee, I think 3 years ago. And I was really like committed to joining. But at the time we had like $30,000 worth of print material, like door hangers and EDDMs that we had just bought from my previous company. I was like, well, I don't want to do that now. Let's get rid of this and we'll join it in a year or so. And then I was watching one of the C-Suites Unfiltered with Mike and Lee. It was really just about helping other people. They were just talking about what can we do to help other people get where they want. And lawn care has been good to me. I have a very good life now. So it's kind of my responsibility now to give back. And I thought Augusta is a great channel to do that, just with the community and everything. So when I saw that, I literally I was sitting on my bed watching it, and I emailed Lee immediately. I was like, hey, man, just watch this C-Suite. It's all for me. If you'll still take me, let's get this rolling.
Wow, that's amazing. So you have grown the company quite a bit. And so why did you think you needed Augusta? Was it more like what you could bring to the community?
Partially. I mean, I don't think I needed Augusta. I mean, we had proven our concept. We were doing well. We were making money like we were supposed to. But there's just that big community. And I know outside of the Augusta community, I know a lot of people think it's kind of odd, but once you're in here, It's just a great community. Like I could pick up the phone now and call one of 15 other owners that I've met over the last 8 months and say, hey man, this is the problem I'm having. Any suggestions? And a lot of the times someone's been there. They've had the same pain point and you can just reach out and talk to them. And for guys that are starting out and gals too, that's so important.
Yes.
Because when I was starting out, I didn't have a clue. I mean, I had all the YouTube videos and stuff. But you don't have those mentors and people that you can reach out to and say, hey man, this is my pain point. This is where I was. Do you have any suggestions? We could have grown a whole lot faster if we had that in years, say 1 through 4, rather than years 8 and 9.
Yeah. So that concept that Mike talks about, that basically you could do it on your own, but it fast tracks you a few years.
Yep.
Yeah. So go ahead.
Go ahead. I was one of the forums that I was on last week on Facebook. I was browsing through it, and a guy was talking about joining Augusta. And what I told him is you're going to pay for your growth one way or the other. You're going to pay through it through trial and error and just screwing up, and that's going to take you forever. You can pay through mentoring and coaching, or you can join a franchise. 2 of those 3 will get you where you want to go a whole lot faster. You just have to weigh which one's best for you.
Yeah. So your team coming into this, how has the transition been for them?
It hasn't been too bad. A couple of my guys that have been with me for 8+ years now, they were very committed to the previous company, Lawnworks. They loved the brand. They helped me build it right from ground zero to where we are now. So they kind of had that emotional connection to the name. I, unfortunately for them, did not.
Yeah.
Once we sat down and, I explained to them all the different benefits through Augusta and what we can do and what we're going to build together. It's just a different name. They've been fine. We've had no issues with it.
So establishing your territory, when you talk to Lee and you go over your area, when you already have a company as big as yours, how do you determine a service area? Do you look at what you already have? Because if you were just starting out, you could basically pick your territory and design it. So how expanded was yours? And did you guys just go around where you were most dense?
We did just the opposite. We cover about a 20-mile radius. So in southern Indiana, which is Jeffersonville, which is where I live, that is by far our most dense area. The place that we lacked was in Louisville, in the Middleton area. So we picked the Middletown area because then I knew I would be forced to focus on that area. Yeah. And we're trying to build that same density there. And then probably this spring we'll start either 1 or 2 new territories to cover the rest of what we don't have. Yeah.
So 20-mile radius is pretty big.
It is.
So you would end up splitting that up into different locations eventually. Is that your plan?
That's the plan. Yeah.
So are you keeping all of the Indiana customers and then you just split it up during the week? Because that's a pretty big river there and probably a lot of traffic. So how are you transitioning over to Louisville?
So traffic's not as bad as people would think. Louisville's pretty good in that aspect. So our shop is located literally half a mile north of the river. So I can be to Kentucky in 6 minutes. So it's not bad. So we have our shop in Jeffersonville and 20 miles. So I shouldn't say 20-mile radius. It's probably a 10-mile radius from our shop. So 10 miles one direction or the other gets us covered. I think the furthest we travel, I think, is about 22 minutes, which I know is getting to a little bit of length. But we start at the far end, 22 minutes out, and by the time they're back in, they're 15 minutes from the shop. So it's not too bad.
It's bigger companies more and more as we move along that are joining Augusta. So a lot of them would ask you, do you come to training? Do you do a video and switch your brand and email all your customers? Or is it something you do gradually?
We did it pretty much all at one time. Like we did 2 things. We sent out an email to all of our customers. We sent out several to make sure they saw it. And then we did a mailer. We sent them a mailing, a flyer in the mail that said, hey, look, we're rebranding. Nothing's changing. Augusta just gave us these benefits, and we'll be able to do different things for different employees and all that stuff. Still committed to the same service that we've done in the past, but we just let them know it's just a name change.
Yeah. So we use Service Autopilot as well, and we grew with Service Autopilot. So what they didn't have, we built workarounds to be able to run what we were doing. So when you transitioned, I'm sure it was the same for you. You had been very you would probably have done the same thing. There was features we were still waiting on. And so you just figure it out with your team. So did you switch to Copilot right away, or are you still in service autopilot? That must have been huge for you.
It is. We're still we're in both. We've got a foot in both ponds. We're still trying to make the transition completely to Copilot, but we had so much built out on the service autopilot side. And honestly, I dropped the ball over the winter trying to get into Copilot sooner. And then spring rush got here, and it just wasn't going to happen at that point. So once we slow down this year, we'll make the full transition to Copilot probably over the winter.
So it's the same as it was for service autopilot for us. We were waiting for features to come out. You have to wait for them to work themselves out, be implemented. Were there things like fertilizers and stuff that you're still trying to do, even though Copilot's not ready for it? Did you keep those in service autopilot?
Yeah, we saw all of our packages that we had in service autopilot. All of those are still there. We still use quite a bit of service autopilot, and we're slowly making the transition into Copilot.
Yeah. So I know you have office staff, and we'll get into that. How do they invoice between the two if they're putting services in one? How much you're not routing and dispatching then from Copilot yet?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, that's still service autopilot.
All right. So you wouldn't have invoices in both that you're trying to get people to pay so that you can switch over. You're not doing that yet.
It's for the most 80% of what we do right now is still in service autopilot.
Okay. And at what point in your business did you bring on office staff?
Way too late in my business. As soon as you can get somebody to come in and help, whether it's command center now, I didn't have that option back then. The ability, and I think that's for people starting out, that is one of the biggest benefits of Augusta is the command center. When I was, me in a truck with 3 or 4 employees, it's virtually impossible to grow your business when you're out mowing and you're trying to answer the phone and you're trying to do billing.
100%.
It is such a drag on growth. And that's command center is huge for that. We were doing $800,000 a year before I brought anyone into the office. It was me, and that was it. So we brought a girl in, Kelly, who is an absolute rock star of an employee. She came in 2 years ago, I think. And she works about 25 to 30 hours a week. And she handles all of the scheduling, all of the billing. She really runs the company much better than I do, to be honest with you. So we brought her in 2 years ago. I just hired a GM. He started June 1st. And he has been fantastic so far. And then my wife came to work for me about 3 weeks ago. So.
Wow. So what's your wife doing? Is she in the office too, or is she doing estimates?
She is wreaking havoc on all of the bad systems that I had. And getting them. It's a good thing. She is much more detail oriented and systems oriented than I am. My brain is all over the place. So she's coming in and trying to create, and she's doing a great job so far. Like SOPs, like on everything's in a form now. We can bring anybody in and train them on how to do stuff now within probably a week. So she's got that under control. And then, I can focus on some of the bigger stuff.
Yeah. So when you brought this person on, how did you train them? Because you already had the whole thing running. You're trying to run it, probably be in the field some, and they've got to learn all this stuff. So did you just have them watch the service autopilot videos first, or did you have them right beside you and they watched what you did and started to replicate it?
So I'm not the best of trainers. Kelly, who came in, thank God she is so good. She spent 2 days in the office with me, and that was it. 2 days. And I was like, here's a cell phone. It's going to start ringing. Let me know if you have questions. And that is about exactly what happened. Within probably 2 weeks, she was more efficient at service autopilot than I was. I would text her, hey, this is an issue. Can you look into it? She would get on the help center, get it all taken care of. And then 2 days later, it's fixed. Fantastic in that way. Even in like passing, I'm like, hey, we should probably build these things out at some point. And then 2 weeks later, she's like, hey, by the way, these are all done. If you can find people like that, they're godsends. I mean, she's just fantastic. So
when you came into Augusta, she was already in there with you and had built systems. So was this extremely overwhelming for her?
I wouldn't say overwhelming. She's a tough cookie. She's very good. It was just a lot of change. And anytime you introduce change into anything, people don't like it for the most part. But I mean, she's she struggled a little bit with Copilot in the beginning just because it was brand new.
Yeah.
But once she kind of got used to things, everything was good. I think her biggest frustration now is we still have the previous company's website up because we still get a lot of leads from them. And they'll call in and, they'll be like, hey, we're looking for Lawnworks. And then she has to explain, well, we're still Lawnworks, but we're Augusta. I think that's her biggest complaint at the point at this moment.
Yeah, I get it. So at what point will you completely change that number over to Augusta, or have you already? Is Command Center taking any calls for you?
No, everything comes through our office.
Okay.
So in terms of shutting the website down, honestly, I don't know. Probably my guess is we'll leave it up for another year so that we can get through the second full season with Augusta. And then, once that happens and we're ranking well with the Augusta website after it's had time to season and stuff, we'll probably shut the other one down.
That is so helpful, what you just said, for so many business owners that are watching the content and considering it, that it's a mammoth task to think of switching over. First, why would you? And then, okay, they buy into what you just said. And then the whole idea of doing it when they have an office team, they have a field team, maybe they have a GM, and to get everybody to buy in. Did you ask your team or ask that office person to watch any of the content so that they could see on their own and kind of catch the vision of what was going on?
So with my office staff, with Kelly, no, because she wouldn't have watched it anyway. She has no interest in watching that stuff. She's got 3 kids. So she's as busy as they come. But my Aaron, who is my GM, he is probably feasted on Mike Andy's videos over the last, probably even before he started, because I interviewed him, I think in May, but he couldn't start until June 1st. So those first 2 or 3 weeks after we talked, I was like, watch the videos, see what you think. And he was in constant communication saying, hey, man, I love the videos. I like where we're going with it. So he did watch a lot of it. Kelly, not so much.
So what if you came into Augusta, you were a large company, and your office people were not buying in, and they actually quit or left, or you took this bold move and didn't you think you needed them because you were going to use Command Center, to hand everything over like that, thinking of what you have now and that you've kept an office person, would they be able to go in, watch the content? Maybe she wouldn't, but how to use Service Autopilot the way we do. So if you got sick and if something happened to you and your wife and you had a family thing you had to go take care of, have you built it so that Command could just take over for you? Or do you think that would be impossible at this point?
I don't think it would be impossible. We're still trying to translate everything into billable hours that Augusta does. We didn't do billable hours in the past. We did it, but it was just in a different formula. Could they take over and do it to the same degree that we could? Probably not, because we haven't built that out on our end. But I mean, they could field the calls, they could send the estimates and all that stuff. So we're like 6 months away from my wife and I being able to completely walk away. And somebody else handle all of the day-to-day operations. That's, the GM's really the last piece in that. So getting there. And I talked to Aaron, my GM, this week about, going forward, when we're doing estimates and all that stuff, I'm like, just like we learned at training when I came in January, this is how we want to build it out going forward. And then that way next year, because the goal is to open up a second location next year. We have an employee that we already want to be the GM. And we're just going to, from day one, it's going to be exactly how it's built out in Augusta, and we're going to let him run with it. And then once we've perfected that, then we can just go wherever we want to open, because we'd like to go to other markets. So once we've perfected that, we can go into any market we want and grow.
So you have yellow trucks now. They're all wrapped, and that's changed for the whole area down there. They're now seeing these yellow trucks. And have you had to do a lot of advertising? And if yes, have you noticed a difference in the speed in which you get leads because Augusta ranks at the top?
No, I haven't noticed a huge difference yet, because we're still new. The website didn't go up, I think, until like late February, early March.
Okay.
So it's still seasoning. We're not where we need to be in that respects. I mean, we still get leads. We do a lot of marketing. But we're growing really fast. Probably faster than we should. But that's kind of the decision I made this year.
Yeah.
Next year, we're going to cut it back and just do the whole profit model thing. And then see where it goes from there. But overall, I I think the lead flow is good. We're happy with it. We struggled coming out of the gates. I think April was until about mid-April. And I even emailed Mike about it. I was starting to panic. Because there was just nothing there. We were not doing what I had projected to do. And then I think it was April 12th. It was like somebody turned on a fire hose. And we got plenty of leads. And it's been, for the most part, it's been good ever since.
That's great. And your reputation from when you were Lawn Works has probably preceded you. But have you seen a change in that when you went in the yellow trucks and they're like, what is going on? And they're showing up to your house?
There's been a few instances where people have called and they're like, hey, we just wanted to check because your guys just showed up in this yellow truck and they had all yellow shirts on, but it's still Lawn Works, right? And I'm like, it's yes. At the core, it's still Lawn Works. We've rebranded. We're Augusta now. So the trucks will be yellow. It was just people who don't check their emails. They don't read their mail. We sent out plenty of information to let them know that the brand transition was happening. I think at this point, everyone is aware of it now, so it's not a big deal.
Mm-hmm. So what's your 5-year plan?
I don't know if I haven't set it out into a 5-year plan. My ultimate goal is to build a $100 million company.
Okay.
I know that's not going to, I don't think that's all going to take place in the lawn care industry. But that's my goal eventually, is to get to $100 million in revenue and then hand it off to my 2 kids. And I guess I'll retire somewhere.
So anybody hearing you say that, they're going to say, what kind of services are you offering to get to that? Do you include large landscaping or just mowing, treatments, cleanups, and mulch installs?
I think it's very feasible that you could do it with just the simple services. I think it'll be harder. So I figure I can grow Augusta to around 10 to 15 million with a couple of different locations, probably 4 or 5. And then we're looking at other industries. I bought a fence company back in October. So it just, all the home services are the same. It's you're selling different products. So like on fencing, our average ticket's about $11,000. It's a lot easier to scale that to 100 million than it is, say, a $50 lawn. But we'll continue to look at other home service industries too.
Is that a franchise, or are you going to try to run it under the umbrella of Augusta?
It is its own separate entity. So when I first started this vision, it was Lawn Works. And then we started an exterior cleaning company that was Waterworks. And then we got into holiday lighting, which is Holiday Lightworks. And then we had Fence Works.
Clever.
It was. And then I threw a wrench in it and joined Augusta. So now we have all of those other works companies in Augusta. But everything's marketed as a separate company. They're all DBAs. Everything is under the same umbrella, but they're all marketed separately.
And do you have 4 or 5 different CRMs?
No, we use the same CRM, which at times becomes very confusing.
No kidding. And your office staff, do they answer phones for all the companies? Like the same gal? Does Kelly do this?
Yes, it's the same people that answer the calls. We've got different call numbers through CallRail or whatever, so when it's coming in, what company it's for. But yeah, there's definitely some days I'm sure my employees would like to pull their hair out. No
kidding. I can't imagine. Okay, you're watching the number quick. Okay, this is Lawn Works. Okay, different number. This is Holiday Lightworks.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
We keep them on their toes.
Yeah, no kidding. When you came for training, did you bring your office staff with you, or did you just take the news back and say, this is what we're doing?
It was just me. It was just me and my wife. We actually stayed out there for about 2 weeks after we were there, which was fantastic. But it was just me that went to training.
The group of people that came with you for training, did you create a WhatsApp group, or did you guys kind of, communicate together still?
We do. And I got lucky because all the coaches were there.
Oh my goodness.
So our group kind of got a little bonus. So we have all of the coaches in the WhatsApp. So
wow.
It's kind of nice.
Yeah, you lucked out there, man. Yeah, so at Augusta, we do coaching calls for the growth model once a month, and it seems that the locations that do that are the most successful. So do you come to your coaching, and what does that look like? What do you have to bring to the table to those meetings?
I think I've missed one call since I've been here. And I just didn't schedule it. I didn't miss it. I just didn't schedule it. I do just like everybody else does, whether you're doing $100,000 or $2 million, it's the same thing, different problems, but you still got to be prepared. So I fill out the form just like all the other guys. And then I have made a point to schedule a call with each of the coaches. I think I have 2 left that I haven't talked to. And then I just ask them what they have going on and what I can learn from them, what I might be able to help them with. Because getting those different viewpoints is just crucial, because you don't know what you don't know.
Right. Do you use different crews for all of these businesses, or do they all, you have the same guys and they're all routed to different jobs to different companies?
So on the lawn care side specifically, we use, so the same guys will do lawn care, landscaping, snow removal. 3 or 4 of my guys will do the holiday light works. And then on the fencing side, we have a completely separate crew for fencing.
I was going to say, how do you know what to wear to work that day?
Yeah, most of them, we've gotten it pretty good. The fence guys know what they're doing. And then the lawn care guys, they know what they're doing for the most part.
That sounds pretty crazy. This is crazy.
It is.
Yeah. So where are you at in revenue? You were 1.5 million when you came in.
1.3 when we came in.
Okay.
With lawn care this year and holiday lights, we'll push 2 million.
Okay. So this is just Augusta.
Yeah.
Lawn Works, Augusta. Okay. And so are you looking to get to a certain revenue before you open another location, or just it's by time and that you want to do it within a year?
I definitely want to open one in the spring. So when we hired the GM that I currently have, the employee that we have here that I want to make a GM, he made it very well known. He wants to get out of the field. He wants to grow. He's just not ready. And I've had that conversation with him. He's close. He's 80% of the way there. So we hired another GM who's fantastic. And I explained to my other guy, listen, this is the plan. Next spring, we're going to open a location. You're going to be the GM. And during that downtime, we're going to train you on what you need to do and to be successful. So that's the main reason we want to open another one, is so that he has opportunity to grow. And then, like I said, once we've kind of perfected that with the second location, because I think that's a huge hurdle. You've kind of perfected that one. Then it's just a matter of just dropping pins on a map and growing.
What are you looking for in somebody that you could say they're 80% ready or they're ready to roll?
To me, the biggest thing is attitude. You've got to have a positive attitude. One of our core values is no negativity. I realize everybody's got issues at home and life, and life just happens sometimes, and you have bad days. But you still got to come to work and be remotely happy.
Yeah.
That's the biggest thing for me, is just come with a positive attitude. We don't necessarily hire people specifically for lawn care or whatever. And I think most people understand this now. You hire for culture. You hire for people that are want the same thing out of life that you do. I can teach anybody to mow. I can teach anybody to weed eat. I can't teach work ethic. I can't teach morals. That stuff they've got to bring up to the table on their own.
Yeah. Are there expectations there? No drugs, smoking, or like, what do you allow there?
So we're a drug-free company. My guys do smoke. Some of them smoke. They do not smoke on the clock. We're smoke-free at work. What they do on their own time is their time. That doesn't bother me. I would prefer no one smoke, but such is life. But other than that, I mean, what they do on their own time is their time. I try to teach my guys as best as I can to do better in life, so that they're pushing themselves to be better, and hope that they learn from that.
Do you have an Audible account or anything that you're really trying to push them towards for their personal growth?
We do. Just like the Bellingham shop did. We've got it posted. I've got a list of, hey, here's my favorite 10 books at the time. And they get money. They get $25 for reading a book or listening to a book or whatever. Some of them take to it and some of them don't. And that's their personal decision. Me personally, if you were going to pay me $25 to listen to a book, I'd listen to a book a day.
No kidding.
That's their choice.
How do you know they listen? Do they have to give you a couple things they gleaned from the book?
Yeah, I mean, it's like an open book report, right? Like I'm like, hey man, What did you get out of it? And if I've read the books, so I know what they're about. And if they have no clue, it's pretty obvious. The good news is I've got good employees. Like they're genuinely good people. They're not, for the most part, going to lie to me. And if they tell me they read something, I'll ask them a couple of questions, and it's pretty clear they've done it.
Yeah. So Leah and I would have bets. We would say, how many guys do you think will listen this month? I'll buy you a coffee. And so I would say like 3. And I think he won that time. And he said 3, I said 2. And you wouldn't believe it. Out of a huge group, you're offering them 30, 40 bucks and they still
Yeah.
wouldn't read it.
Yeah, it's easy money. I don't understand it. My GM, when he came on board, when I was interviewing him, because he saw the Audible account on the board, and he's like, "So what's that about?" And I was like, "Look, we pay our guys to listen to books." And he's like, "How much do you pay him?" I was like, $25 a book. And he's like, "How many can I listen to in a week?" It's like, "As many as you want."
No way you do that.
He does. Like he called me. I don't know if you've read the book Traction. That we've read that, and I gave it to Aaron. I was like, "Look, this is kind of what we want to build going forward." So before he even started, he was texting me. He's like, "Dude, I love the Traction book. It's great." So he's definitely bought into what we're doing, and that makes all the difference.
No kidding. No kidding. So you seem like a person that's very open to personal growth and change. You were in all of those groups. You've been in the different groups, and you have a coach. How has that affected you in business? Do you think it's what's made you so successful?
Yes. The coaching is critical, and it's not just the coaching. Obviously, I've put in the work, and that's the difference. Is you can get all the knowledge you want, but if you don't do anything with it, it's just knowledge. It doesn't do anything. And I did that for the first 5 years I was in business, man. I learned from all of these great coaches, and it just sat there. And again, I don't know what the switch was, but my coach that I have now, Nick, he somehow got through to me. And we started implementing. And I think part of it was there was an accountability on his part. Like I met with him every week, and he would be like, "Look, I want these 4 projects done before we meet next week." And if they weren't done, he would get mad at me. He's like, "I'm not going to coach anymore." Whether or not he was serious about that, I don't know. But I mean, he held my feet to the fire. So we made sure we got my stuff done. And once you start implementing that, then it's just, you don't have to be perfect. I know there's a cliche about, you don't have to be perfect to get it done. And I think that's where a lot of guys get frozen is they're like, "Oh, well, my marketing's not perfect, so we're not going to send it out there." Well, who cares? As long as you get your name out there, that's a good thing. And I think more people need to realize that it's okay to make a lot of mistakes in business. I've made plenty of mistakes.
And so you've made them so other people don't have to make them. And what you've been to Augusta has been a huge asset already. Do you feel like you've had an influence and had an impact?
I don't know on a huge level. I don't know that I have. I mean, I've talked to several, other owners that I know I've been helpful with and been able to give them advice on stuff. And that is far and away the best part of Augusta. If I don't make another dollar, I'm fine with that as long as somebody can call me and I can help their problem. If I can do that, I'm happy. And I have absolutely been able to do that since joining Augusta.
Fantastic. And so for yourself right now, are you in the field at all? Do you have GMs, and are you just overall managing all of the different companies from outside the field?
Yeah, I haven't been in the field in a couple of years. I think last year we had a couple of guys call in sick, and I had to jump on a truck and mow. I think I made it through 4 yards until I threw up my hands and was like, "I'm done. This isn't working. Let's go back in." So the guy that was with me ended up doing shop work that day. It's just not something that I don't mind doing it. I'm more than happy to do it if that's what the business needs.
Yeah.
It's just not my passion anymore. I can have a much bigger effect from the office than I can from a truck. And that's where I prefer to be. So right now, yes, I kind of oversee everything. Aaron, my new GM, give him 6 months, and I promise you, I won't have to do anything at work. He will have everything under control.
Do you do any estimates for the different companies?
No, I don't. I mean, well, let me rephrase that. Yes and no. No, other than training. So Aaron's learning how to do the estimates. We have a full-time sales guy too, and he covers all of the companies. So he does his own sales. He's trained. He knows what he's doing. He doesn't need to call me for anything. Aaron's still learning because he's only been here 3 weeks. So he went on a couple of landscape estimates this week, got all the information, came back to me and said, "Hey, this is what I've got. Can you go over it with me?" And we did. So we built that out for him. But once he's comfortable with that, I won't be doing estimates either.
Does your staff do OTP, or does your estimator go out to every lawn and bid it?
No, we definitely do OTP. I can't imagine, and I know there are still millions of guys that still do this. I can't imagine going to every lawn and measuring it. So when I hired my sales guy last year, he's a real go-getter. He's like, I want to go to every single sales appointment possible. He goes, if you get an estimate for lawn mowing, I want to go to it. And I'm like, sure, I'll listen to you and I'll tell you can do that. But after about the first week and we've had 100 estimates going to come in, you're not going to do that. Definitely. And it's not scalable. There's no way. During the spring rush, we may send out 100 estimates in a week for lawn mowing. You can't go to all of those. So we just do it. It's measured by square footage and you go from there.
That's sweet. So do you use a certain software or do you use Google Earth?
We're still in Service Autopilot. So we use our maps feature, which I think is through Google Earth.
Yeah. And it still works well for you.
We've had, it is. So to me, it's 95% efficient. Yes, there's going to be houses that, on Google Earth look completely flat. And we'll measure it and give them a price. And then we get out there and it's a 45-degree hill that we can no longer take care of. But that happens 1 out of 100. So I'm more than happy with those results. And
if you kind of bid low from your measurement, do you keep them at that price for a year till the next season or something and then raise their price?
I think it depends on the situation. If I'm like $2 or $3 off, we'll just eat it. Not a big deal. But like if we quote a job at $50 and then we get out there and we realize it's going to take us 3 hours to mow it, typically what we're going to do is mow it at that price for the $50. And then we're going to make a phone call afterwards and say, look, we took care of you this time. We honored our pricing, but we either can't mow you at this price or we're going to have to raise your price. Does it cause friction from time to time? Yes. But I think as long as you're upfront with the clients and let them know, hey, look, we're measuring this stuff from in-house. Sometimes this happens. Most of them are okay with it.
Yeah. So I don't want to take up any more of your valuable time, but a couple final questions. What would you say to somebody just starting out and wanting to do what you're doing, not Augusta, but a business owner, to make it through those stages where, okay, we're in growth, and then those low times in the midst of all that? What would you say to somebody just starting out with these big, audacious, hairy goals?
First and foremost, find somebody to talk to, a coach, a mentor. More than likely, you can find somebody in your own area that's willing. Like, guys can come to me from Louisville all the time and ask me questions about mowing or whatever. I'm more than happy to give that out. I don't care if they're competition or not. That is the single most important thing they can do is find somebody. For most entrepreneurs, it's a very, very lonely journey. Yeah. Because not many people do this overall. So you kind of get caught in those caves where you're like, I don't know how to get out of it, but there's a guy standing at the end of it with the rope. All you got to do is ask for the help. Yeah. And I think that's crucial, is find someone. And there's plenty of coaches out there. You just got to look for them. Yeah. That's the first thing I would do, is I would find a coach, somebody who's where I want to go. So like if you're starting out, don't go find a coach that's doing $10 million in business. They're not going to be able to help you as much. Find somebody that's doing $500,000 and say, hey, how did you get to here? And then as you grow, you find bigger and better coaches. I think that's the most important thing you can do, is just don't do it alone.
And what would you say to somebody who already has a big company that's considering joining Augusta? How do they kind of weigh that out and count the cost?
I think so. For bigger companies, I just talked to a guy this week who's thinking about joining, and he's at 1.7 million. I think you have to decide what your values are. And to me, that was a big reason for joining Augusta. It was not a financial reason. To me, it was what Mike has laid out and what he's trying to do in the industry. That's something that I want to be a part of. I had this conversation with my guys when we first moved to Augusta. Lawn care guys, for the most part, get a bad rap, right? Mm-hmm. They're kind of the low rung of the labor market. Like, nobody's walking into a dinner like, I mow lawns and pump at their chest, right? Totally. But they should. They should be just as proud of their job as a doctor or a lawyer or a plumber or HVAC, whatever. And I told my guys, to me, that's important. I want you all to be proud of what you do. We do really good work. We take care of a lot of homes. It's something that you should say with pride. And I think, as Mike has said about changing the level of professionalism, that's something that I care about for my employees. Mm-hmm. So to the bigger companies out there, if you care about your employees and you want to see them do better, Augusta's a great place to come. If you're coming to Augusta just for financial reasons, we're probably not the best fit.
Yeah, that's great. So to close out, can you share a quote? You sound like you're very well read. Are you a quote guy? Do you have anything? It doesn't have to be your favorite, because I would never be able to say a favorite.
I do have a quote that is my favorite. It is not from a book. It is from a TV show. It's from Peaky Blinders. It is a very violent show, and it's not a great show in that sense. But the lead character is Thomas Shelby. And he has a quote that said, "This is my mission, and I shall have no limitations." I live by that. I have decided this is what I'm going to do, and nothing's going to stop me from getting there.
That's phenomenal. Okay, well, we'll wrap up with that. I have no words to say how much I appreciate this, and it's going to help so many people.
Thank you, ma'am.
All right, you have a great day. Thank you.
You too. Thank you. Have a good morning.
Bye.